Hey guys, it's Monday. It's the Betting Edge with the Prez. I'm Lawrence Presman, co-founder of WagerTalk Media, owner of WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, and of course the legendary and iconic must-read, must-have Gold Sheet. Today's show, opening line report and early look with another co-founder of WagerTalk.com, the legendary, the infallible, the dynamic, and extremely annoying Marco D'Angelo. I want to bring you in. Marco, what's up, Mr. Annoying? You don't annoy me. I love you. What did you eat this weekend? Because that seems to be like all you talk about on these shows.
No, just they had family functions this weekend, and just watched a lot of football. Prez played a little poker last night, and here we are this morning, ready to go. Had a guy come up to me at the poker table and said sorry to bother you, wanted to introduce himself, and says I love the show, bet on it, and he didn't say anything about you though. Sorry.
Marco, I you know what? I will always play second fiddle to you, and I understand that and encourage it, respect it. What can I say, man? How was your weekend betting wise?
Betting wise, we went 2-2 on Saturday, Prez, with our football, and Sunday we went 1-2. And I got a little bit of the weekend. I got a little Prezitis. I was on the bad end of several bad breaks, and it just my two losers yesterday were Cleveland and Kansas City.
I was on Kansas City with you, bro.
That that throw that Aaron Rodgers made, I literally thought he was falling backwards, just was throwing it away, and yet he somehow gets it to the guy in the back of the corner of the end zone in that little 6-inch window that only he could catch the football, and he pulls it in.
Yeah, I think that was their second touchdown, if I'm correct, and it was a throw for the ages. It was absolutely unbelievable. Listen, let's give out your promo quick because honestly, this show's about me. Marco is 53-29 in his last 7 weeks of football. What, Marco?
No, it's all sports. Football, baseball, basketball, everything combined.
53-29. A 72% return on your money in the last 7 weeks, and you can have $100 off of his $325 package, all sports, MD225. That's MD225. Marco, I am going to change the scroll, but we'll get back to you, and then let's get into the show, bro, because that's why they're here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we get into the opening line report, the early look for week 8, a lot of our customers, a lot of our listeners ask, bankroll management. So I just want to address that right off the bat, and then we'll start the show. Guys, the handicappers at WagerTalk and Sports Memo release their plays, and the plays are rated a 3%, 4%, and 5%. Why do we use the percentage sign instead of the unit sign? We could be releasing 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, 3-unit, 4-unit, 5-unit. Instead, we specifically choose a percentage. The reason is, and this is in keeping with how you, the bettor, need to manage your own money, we're literally saying to you, bet 3% of your bankroll, 4% or 5% of your bankroll on any given play. I would say, Marco, correct me if I'm wrong, 90% of all plays, 80% of all plays we release are 4% play. We want you guys to bet almost the same amount on every play, and I'll explain the percentage versus the units in a second. Marco?
Yeah, we did that, Prez, back at the beginning. We came in and I said, at a place I was at a long, long time ago, the rating system was just, it was jacked up. It was wrong. 3, 2, and 1, you shouldn't be playing 3 times your
Right.
base amount on a play. And we said that's not a way to go long term if you're protecting your bankroll. And we came up with I said to you, I said, we have to structure this more like a professional bettor. Now, if they want to use units, that's fine. 3, 4, and 5 is a good scenario because your top play is not even double. You're going from 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So if you want to set a certain amount, let's say you want to do $100, a unit, then that's fine too, because then your plays are going to be 500, 400, and 300. That's a better structure. But professional bettors, there's two types of professional bettors, Prez. There is the flat unit player, and that is generally guys that like to play a ton of action. All they're looking for is to beat that 52.38%. And they're playing all of their games, doesn't matter what the ratings are, for the same amount, those games. That's one type of professional bettor. Another type of professional bettor, and that's why we went with the percentages, is percentage of bankroll. You start the season with a certain amount of money that you can afford to lose. That's your bankroll for that particular sport. And I do mix my bankrolls. I don't have one bankroll for every sport. If I'm running great in football but mediocre in basketball at the time, I don't want to be playing the same amount on both sports. That's just not right, because percentage of bankroll was designed to maximize the winning streaks and minimize the losing streaks. When you're winning, if your bankroll started at a hypothetical $10,000, well, then a 3% play is $300. And as your bankroll grows, if your bankroll grew from 10,000 to 15,000, now that 3% play that at the beginning of the season might have been a $300 play is now a $450 play. So you're maximizing your winning. But on the same token, if you're losing, those amounts decrease. So when you're in a losing streak, you're losing less. Plus, if you're doing percentage of bankroll, unless, which never, ever, ever should happen, your bankroll is never going to be depleted,
Right.
because the size of your wager will continue to get smaller. And that's the why we have the percentage. So it's a long about way of doing it. But again, you have to decide what is best suited for you and what you're comfortable with. Now, we do have a lot of guys at the site, Prez. One that comes to mind right away would be Vegas Synergy. They are somebody that plays a lot of games, but that's what they do, and they attack numbers. Gianni's another one that has a lot of plays. They attack numbers, and they're looking, their ratings are all going to be around the same most of the time because they're playing flat units most of the time.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching The Betting Edge with the Prez and Marco. I'll sum it up like this. And if you're betting a percentage of your bankroll, every time you win, your next bet is larger. Every time you lose, your next bet is smaller. As a result, a 15-5 run is actually a 17-5 run because your bankroll increases. So had you have kept your bets exactly the same, you would need a 17-5 run to make what a man who's betting a percentage does on 15-5. And conversely, if you go 5-15, and trust me, I know how that feels, you actually go 5-13. So betting a percentage of bankroll is absolutely crucial. Marco, we got to get into it. Before anything happens, are you aware of Andrew McGinnis's hot run right now?
Absolutely. Talked with him on Twitter last night. Great run. This is one of the up-and-coming handicappers we have. You can find him over at Sports Memo. And I'll tell you what, this, I keep calling him a kid.
He is a kid.
Because compared to a lot of us 21. Old graybeards.
That's a kid.
That's a kid. And, but I see that in him where, that drive that I had back when I first got into the business. And he's creating a lot of content. And, the thing, I'm actually jealous of the young guys, Prez, because let's not pat ourselves on the back too much, but we've created a platform now where these guys can share their craft. We never had this back in our day, okay? And to be able to be on the size of stages that they are today, their careers are so much faster to get fast tracked
Well,
to
if
what
they
took us
join
years to.
WagerTalk. Otherwise,
Yeah,
they're just floating in the middle of nowhere land on the internet with 9 million other people who think they can do this for a living. But
absolutely.
yeah,
And
dude, I mean, sorry to interrupt, bro. We got to get into the show. But I mean, you look at Hakeem in NBA and Alex and Andrew, some of our soccer guys, Pavlov, Nick Borman, all young guys, all up and comers. But guys, Andrew McGinnis is on a 17-1 all sports run, a 17-1 all sports run. He's got a 5% NBA play up at Sports Memo today. And all plays at Sports Memo and Wager Talk are $9. It's $9 Monday. And the handsome man in the blue shirt that we're all staring at has a play in the NFL tonight. You can head over to Wager Talk and get it for $9. Marco, let's go, baby. San Francisco, -8 against Arizona. Total 44. San Fran, they are for real. This defense is unbelievable. Their offense is becoming very balanced, and George Kittle could be top 5 player in all of football right now. Arizona had a ton of trouble yesterday. This team, I think, is out of sorts. With that said, I don't think this line's going to go up. I think if anything, this line is going to come down with money coming in on Arizona.
I don't really see that, Prez. Last week, there was a ton of sharp action that came in on Carolina in this game. That was one of the biggest played underdogs. And, we have several shows, radio shows. We do some stuff with Dave Koken in that. And I did the show on Friday, and we had the guy from CG on there. And they told us they're going to need the 49ers on Sunday. All of the sharps were betting Carolina in that game. And it's like people don't believe in San Francisco. They have to start believing in this team. Throw out the Washington game because it was a horrible spot and it was played in a monsoon. Look at their last 3 games now. That Sunday or the Monday night game against Cleveland, where the world saw them demolish the Browns. Then they demolish the Rams. And then yesterday, Carolina. They're going to jump on this bandwagon. In Arizona, they got exposed yesterday. That 3-game winning streak, Prez, there was against 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. I think they had a combined record of like 3-16, the teams they had beat before playing the Saints yesterday. And I was all about the under in that game. And it's just because they hadn't faced the defense. The 49er defense, even though the Saints defense shut them down yesterday, Saints defense isn't as good as the 49er defense. This is for real. Bosa's everywhere right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. There might even be 2 of them.
Yeah. It's in. You
get it? Yeah, my job.
I got it. Nice one. This is a spot where I only see the line going one way, and it's because I would say don't be surprised if you see it go to 9. And the reason I'm going to say that, Prez, is it's going to be the teaser blocker. At this number of 8, they are going to get so many teasers coming in on San Francisco just to win the game. And so I don't see it going to 7.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm not going to be playing on this game, but I do like Arizona. Marco, I went 5-2 yesterday in NFL. I went 3-0 in college football. I'm on a 17-5 all sports run, 6-2 hockey run, 5-2 NFL run, 8-0 baseball run. Can you please figure out a way for this World Series to be best of 35? And just like you, I took $100 off of my package as well. So you get all my sports, and I play every single sport except soccer, although I am currently interviewing, if you will, some guys for soccer, because as I've spoken about openly, I have a team of guys that do my picks with me. So I am actually planning on adding soccer shortly. But anyway, head over to WagerTalk, use the promo code PREZ225. or of course MD 225 for the big man. Houston against Jacksonville here, Marco. Jacksonville looked good yesterday. The mustache man, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, this could be his last game of the season, but I cannot see them taking him out for Nick Foles. Houston is banged up. Their secondary is a mess. We saw it yesterday against Oakland, who pretty much shot themselves in the foot, but could have won that game. And now they've got no Watt or Clowney because he's in Seattle, so the edge rushers are gone. With that said, they find themselves at -2 with a total of 47.5, and we are already seeing money coming in on Jacksonville. What's your take?
Well, the take on that is people looked and saw Jacksonville win easily yesterday, and it's back-to-back wins for Jacksonville. But let's be honest, they beat Cincinnati, who's winless, and they beat the Jets, who've got one. I mean, how do you get excited about those two wins? You look at Houston, obviously the injuries are mounting on the defensive side of the football. So for me, moving forward, we've seen a slight move from the look-ahead line to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Understandable because of the injuries. They had to make an adjustment. But if you're going to be moving forward with this Houston team, I think right now there's only one way you could be looking at their games, and that's going to be you're going to be looking at overs with them because they're going to give up a lot of points
agree.
now. And this is a team that is going to have to outscore their opponents. And Watson is capable of doing that. You know, they put up 27 yesterday. He was 27 points. He was 27 of 39 for 258 yards. They ran the football for 130 yards. Yes, they might try to continue to run the football more. If you look yesterday, they 32 rushes versus 39 passes, trying to get that balanced as they can to protect that secondary. But still, if they fall behind, they have to match the points, and that's the key. Can that happen with Jacksonville and over in London? Remember, this game is a London game, and Jacksonville plays every year a London game. So if there's any team that's used to the procedure, it is definitely Jacksonville. This is their second home. But I understand the move. I don't know that I agree with it. Jacksonville just too inconsistent for me. This is a spot, though, you look at their defense, and they've held the last three opponents to 13, 17, and 15. And the last two have been without, they got rid of Ramsey, trading him to the Rams. But again, they played Cincy and the Jets. Just remember that in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know that I'll be involved here. This is a spot maybe we look at the teaser.
No chance.
Anytime you got a shot here with the 2.5, teasing through the key numbers, I don't know that Jacksonville gets blown out here. I just don't see Houston being able to get a lot of separation with the current state of their defense, Prez.
Yeah, I think there's better teasers on the board than this one. I feel like there could be separation. I think I like Houston in the spot flat out, Marco. I'll tell you that right now. And I actually, if you guys do like Houston, I would bet it right now because although the line is moving closer towards Jacksonville, I don't want to take a chance. 2 is a good number for me. I like it. Houston -2 is going to be likely a play of mine. Marco, Washington going into Buffalo, and you have Buffalo at -10 with a total of 37. And, Washington was able to move the ball on Minnesota. They just could not finish in the red zone, and Buffalo just really laid an egg yesterday against Philadelphia. My take on this game is that if you're going to bet Washington, you need to bet Washington today. I don't think 10s will be there on Sunday. And the bottom line for me, Marco, is I'm going to take double-digit dogs against Buffalo anytime. I think Buffalo's a good team. With that said, they let 220 yards on the ground yesterday. Their defense is not as vaunted as we anticipated, and their offense just can't put up points. How can you lay 10 if your offense can barely score 17?
Well, obviously, yesterday was just a pitiful showing for Buffalo. And my concern with Buffalo for this week is what is their reaction now off of, finally getting, smacked in the face? I mean, they played New England in their other loss, right to the wire, 14-7. Now this one was just plain ugly, and they shot themselves in the foot with some stupid penalties in the game. But they had no answer for Philadelphia's offense, and that concerns me. The rushing, that's the most rushing yards they gave up in any game this season, and the closest one to that was 129 yards against the Giants the second week of the season. So this has been a team that we've been praising their defense, and they just got stomped yesterday. So a lot of times when a team's flying high and they get that first real punch in the face, they might have a carryover effect and lose the same game twice. Do they lose to Washington? I don't see them losing to Washington, but I'm not going to run to the window to bet Buffalo here. Also, you've got Washington that's got the extra prep time. But on the same token, Prez, you talk about you don't want to lay 10 points with a team that score. Do I want to take 10 points on the road with a team that in their last 5 games, Prez, have scored 3, 7, 17, 0, and 9?
Yeah. And not against defenses as good as Buffalo's either.
The Minnesota one,
no,
the Minnesota defense in San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco and Minnesota was good, but again, San Francisco was the game in the monsoon. This is a game that's just, it's ugly. I think there's better plays on the card. The look-ahead line was 10. The current line is 10. I see this staying pretty much where it's at.
I don't. It's definitely going to go down. I think it's going to end at 9. He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. We are the co-founders of WagerTalk Media. And Marco, we're going to have a scroll change. So everyone write that down. Prez 225. Let's go to Marco. Look at that, eh? It's like a commercial break in the middle of a video. Tennessee, great win yesterday. Really showed moxie. Defense was outstanding, scored 14 points themselves. I think there's some life in Tennessee, Marco. They're going into Carolina. 3.5 to Carolina. 41 is the total. We've already seen the total be bet up from 40. Both reverse line moves, Marco. It says 74% of the tickets have been written on Carolina so far. Yet we've had a full line drop from 4.5 to 3.5. So there's some very smart money coming in on Tennessee. And same with the over. I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think it's going to be one in the trenches. 41, though, is a little bit too low for me. My initial look ahead is a pass. But if you do plan on betting Tennessee, I think you should bet them now in case that hook goes away. Marco?
Yeah, don't get too carried away with the betting percentages on Monday morning, because we're talking on most of these games. Less than 1,000 tickets written so far, and that'll be so much higher in, the NFL by the end of the week. But we have seen a movement from the look-ahead line. The look-ahead line was 4.5 in this game, and now it's been adjusted a full point. Why the full point? Well, because Carolina got smacked around yesterday. They got embarrassed by San Francisco. Kyle Allen, first game that he came up as a loser as the starter for the Carolina Panthers, and he had an ugly performance. 19 of 37, only 100 net yards passed yesterday. They had 3 turnovers, and you can't do that against a defense as good as the 49ers. Now, for Tennessee, what are we taking from them? Yeah, the line moved a point because they've won 2 in a row, and Carolina got drilled. So I understand the line.
I also think the Ryan Tannehill is in play here, Marco, because Mariota was so bad and the offense was so one-dimensional. And even when Mariota throwed, it was all like 5, 7 yard passes underneath. Now they've got a guy with an arm. He's stretching the field at least a little bit, opening more space for Derrick Henry. I think that is factored into this line move as well.
It is, Prez, but let's look at the game yesterday. And 2 points there. Now, you talk about stretching the field. He stretched the field in the Charger game, 24 of 30 for 306 yards. Yesterday, 21 of 33, good completion percentage, but he only had 174 yards.
Yeah.
So he didn't stretch the field yesterday, and he was playing a Tampa Bay defense. That's a team that you should be able to stretch the field against. And Tampa had 4 turnovers, +3 in the turnover margin, and yet only won by 4 points. The week before that, they won by 3 points. So they had 2 games in which they really easily could have lost as easily as they won. Remember the Charger game, how that ended. And yesterday, if they don't have the turnovers, Tampa, I think it's a totally different ball game. Now, again, the question mark is Carolina. What does Allen do after his first bad game? He hasn't tasted defeat yet. So I understand the movement coming down, and this will be the first road game for Tannehill since he took over. So I can buy my initial reaction to Tennessee going out on the road, maybe being a live dog. I think the money's going to come that way. I think there's a bigger chance of Tennessee going to 3 than this going back to 4. So that's where I'm at now. I don't have a firm opinion on this game yet because I've got questions on both teams. Tennessee has looked better than they have the last 2 weeks. Their wins were, tad bit lucky, let's be honest. And Carolina yesterday was just a train wreck. But I always say, Prez, don't overreact to one game. Nobody's as good as their best game, nor are they as bad as their worst game. And that clearly was the worst game for Carolina in 5 weeks. So let's regroup and see what happens. And then there's going to be talk about, well, do they go back to Cam Newton now too? You'll get that buzz. So there's some problems in Carolina. Ron Rivera is coaching for his job, in my opinion, and he's got some tough decisions to go the rest of the way of who he's going to put at quarterback.
Marco, Chicago going into Philadelphia. We saw an outstanding effort by Philadelphia yesterday on both sides of the ball, but most importantly, we really saw them going back to running the ball a lot, which including Carson Wentz. I mean, he made a couple of really, really crucial first downs with his legs yesterday. That opens up the passing game. I think it just makes Philadelphia a better team all around. Now they're hosting a Chicago team. They're -5 with a total of 43.5. And the bottom line for me, Marco, is this Chicago team is bad. Flat out bad. I understand Montgomery had a massive game yesterday coming out of the backfield. They do not have a world-class running game. They don't have a world-class wide receiver. Their quarterback would be world-class if East Samoa had a NFL league. This Chicago team is bad. And I'm telling you now, we're going to see money coming in on Philadelphia all week. It is -5, so I don't think you need to rush to get in on Philadelphia now. But, my early look ahead is this might be one of the best plays on the board.
Well, Prez, I'm going to disagree with you in a little bit. First of all, the look-ahead line on this game was 3. And given the results of Philadelphia smacking Buffalo around and Chicago losing a heartbreaker again, the money's come in Philadelphia, and we understand that. I don't disagree with why the line is moving, but let's not get carried away. You talked about the rushing game for Philadelphia. Yeah, the rushing game worked yesterday, and that opens up the passing lanes. I agree with you 100%. But that was because they were able to do that against Buffalo. And Buffalo came in hyped with a good defense. We still have, with the exception of the game against the Saints, you still have one of the best defenses in all of football with the Chicago Bears. Now, that is if they don't quit on this team. And what's happened with the Bears is because they have not been able to do anything offensively.
Yeah, frustration.
the frustration of the defense, plus the fact the defense has been on the field for too many plays because the offense was having too many 3-and-outs, and you're right back on the field. But yesterday, Chicago did move the football, 162 yards on the ground against the Chargers and 226 through the air with the passing game, 23 of 35. But Mitchell Trubisky can't stretch the field. You're going to see some people come in on the dog because the people that just use their season-long numbers, the numbers are going to come up. Chicago's the better defense, and they're getting points here. And because Philadelphia was able to run last week, doesn't mean they're going to run this week against this defense. And that's the key to this game.
Yeah,
and let's not forget, Philadelphia still has a bad secondary. That the secondary is giving up a lot of yards.
Okay, so let's just stop there for a second, Marco. You know, listen, you're a situational guy. I'm a matchups guy. And from my perspective, here's how this rolls out. Philadelphia's weakness is their secondary. Chicago doesn't have a quarterback. So
this is true.
When, from a matchup perspective, it's weakness to weakness. I don't think Philadelphia's secondary is going to be exposed when Mitch Trubisky continuously overthrows his wide receivers. He had Gabriel open for a game-winning touchdown yesterday. Couldn't connect at all. So that doesn't concern me. What is Chicago's weakness? Their weakness on defense is their secondary. Now, I respect that Philadelphia needs to be a run-first team to open up their play action, but they don't need to win that way all the time. This team can win in the air. Carson Wentz can throw the ball, and they have Ertz and wide receivers that are really good. So from an offensive perspective, if Chicago shuts down Philadelphia's run game, which they won't because Melvin Gordon had some big runs against Chicago yesterday, but if they do shut their run game down, I think Carson Wentz could beat them in the air anyway. And Marco, I don't know if you watched the Charger game yesterday, but just for the record, the Chargers left 17 points on the table. 2 of them were dropped balls in the end zone by Keenan Allen, right in his hands. So I don't think the Chicago defense is this almighty either. So I think they're definitely one of the best defenses in the league right now. But they're not the 207 Patriots or the Ray Lewis Baltimore Ravens. They can be had. Minnesota, Kansas City, there's no lineup on that game. So let's move to Miami, hosting the Jets. This line's going to change, Marco, based on tonight's game. But we have the Jets coming in at -5.5. And the only reason I would not take Miami is the tank for Tua is in effect. So my initial reaction on this Jets-Miami game is stay the hell away.
Yeah, the situation is going to be is we want to see what Miami does tonight. If Miami comes out of not tanking, the game they're going to do, it'll be a national TV game, which is what they're doing tonight. If you're going to get a good effort, a full effort, Miami, it would be on a Thursday, Sunday, or Monday game where the world – Sunday night game where the world is watching them and are the only game in town. If they do have a big performance tonight, yes, that would set up a nice situation on the weekend. But it's like pick the lesser of two evils. Which would you want if you're betting this game? The Miami Dolphins or the New York Jets? I mean, do you want a punch in the face or a kick in the nuts? Okay. Take your pick, Prez. Which one do you want?
Kicking my nuts. I've had my kids. I'm not having kids anymore, and my face is so damn pretty. Marco, Indianapolis, -1, pick 'em all over the map against Pittsburgh. This line is going to move as well. The total on this game is 43. I think the game tonight is likely going to go under. I think we're going to see this Indy-Pittsburgh total drop. I think we're going to end at a 41.5, Marco. So for me, on a line move perspective, I think if you're going to play the under, I think you need to bet it today, before the game tonight, where you can get 43.5. Maybe set up a nice middle for yourself as well. Go ahead, good sir.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things to point out with Pittsburgh with this game, again, we want to see, just like the Miami game, see how Pittsburgh comes out of this game. But I can tell you one matchup that'll be a pro Steelers in this game. Jacoby Brissett is a mobile quarterback. He's a guy that will tuck the football and run with it. And that was a big part of the game yesterday that kept the Colts in there for key plays. He only had 6 rushes, but he had 6 rushes for 34 yards at key downs when they kept drives alive. And that's a situation where the Steelers, rushing quarterbacks have given them problems. They had trouble against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. They had trouble with Seattle and Russell Wilson. So that's something to look at in this one. Pittsburgh comes through, but you've already seen without the Steelers playing for 2 weeks. Remember, the Steelers are coming off a bye, playing on Monday night and playing the Dolphins, and yet the public has already adjusted this from the look-ahead line. It was pick, and now it's Indianapolis 1. So you already know the market's going to think on this game. Unless the Steelers put a beat down tonight, there's only one way this line goes. And if it does continue to go up, Prez, you're sitting at 1. If you get this to 1.5, 2 points, and then you have an opportunity to come back and tease the home dog in a total that's got 43.5 that we're looking at, as you said about the total, do you see either team getting separation here? So whoever is the favorite, the dog is going to be a great teaser.
Yeah, and unlike the Houston teaser suggestion, I'm with you here. I think this Indy-Pittsburgh game is going to come down to whoever has the ball last. He's Marco D'Angelo, 53-29 in his last 7 weeks of all betting, not just football. And you can get a month of all these plays for $100 off the regular price of $325. Just head over to WagerTalk.com. Use the promo code MD225. And Marco, we have an in-video scroll change. Here we go. Here we go. Done.
Oh, Prez.
Andrew McGinnis, 17-1 in his last 18, guys. I should be promoting him today, but he didn't tell me. I only heard about it on Puck Time, which I taped just before the show. So I will have a promo for Andrew McGinnis ready for tomorrow. Detroit +2 going into Oakland. Total is 51. This Oakland team should have won yesterday, Marco. The defense just couldn't get Houston off of the field in the second half. I don't know if you know this, but Oakland had 3 possessions in the second half, which is very interesting because it shows you that Houston, who's a team that can stretch the field, and Deshaun, who can throw easily 30, 40-yard catches, they weren't doing it yesterday. They were very well balanced, just kept Oakland's offense off the field, but Oakland had a couple of tough breaks at the end there. Terrell Williams had the ball in his hand for a game-winning, a game-tying field goal and a potential game-winning touchdown, dropped the ball. And then they had a really, really bad holding flag at the end of the game that also prevented them from winning. I think this Oakland team is much better than people think. With that said, I'm high on Detroit, Marco. And I know we can say, oh yeah, they didn't cover 7 against the Giants. Well, you know what? They beat Green Bay, minus idiot referees that took that game away from them. We're seeing money coming in on Oakland. My early look ahead is, I don't know where this line's going, but I do like Detroit.
Yeah, I don't understand the rush to the window with Oakland here. You look at it, the look-ahead line was picked.
Yeah.
Okay? Detroit won, and Oakland lost. Okay? So what's making you run to the window to bet Oakland here? What's changed? Yeah, they had a good-looking loss against Houston yesterday, but the fact remains they couldn't stop Houston either. Okay, they shot themselves in the foot with those penalties that killed the drive. But you talked about Houston running the football. The reason Houston was running the football is because they had to try to protect the defense. They had no defensive players left with all the
Yeah.
key injuries of people going out yesterday. So Oakland's offense did look good, but it looked good with an asterisk. It was facing a team that was decimated in game. Now you look at the Lions and 2.5. This screams to me at 2.5 to jump the 6 points on them and get them to 8. Because with this Oakland Raider defense, how in God's name could you be comfortable with Oakland thinking they're going to get separation in this game? And even if somehow they did get separation and they're winning by 10 to 14 points, I could see Matthew Stafford going down the field late in the fourth quarter for a meaningless touchdown to get back in on the back end of the teaser there. So no situation for me there. I'm looking at a teaser with Detroit or nothing. And part of it is, Prez, that Oakland's back home for the first time since September 15th. They're going to be playing on November 3rd. They have not played in Oakland since September 15th. Just an insane schedule for them. So everybody's jumping on that. Don't run that way so fast.
Guys, I'm on a 17-5 all sports run. 17-5 all sports run. I'm telling you, and Marco knows this better than anybody. I am the streakiest handicapper alive. I will put down a 1-12. I'll put down a 20-5. This 17-5 run has just begun. I am so confident that the next 30 days are going to be really good in all sports that I'm playing. Head over to WagerTalk.com. Use the promo code PREZ225. Marco, Tampa Bay going into Seattle. We've already seen a line move from 5.5 to 6.5, a total of 52.5. I don't think this is going to get to 7. Let's start there.
Well, again, and I hate to start every Tampa Bay analysis with the same thing, but you have to at this point. How do you handicap Tampa Bay games when you don't know which Jameis Winston's going to show up? And the one thing that he didn't do yesterday that he normally does is normally off of a bad performance, they have a clean game the next one. They had 7 turnovers 2 weeks ago in that loss to Carolina over in London, and then they come back this week off their bye week. You would expect them to have a clean game. 4 turnovers again. You can't win in the NFL with 11 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. That ties, how bad Cleveland is with the turnovers. This is a spot here. Seattle is the better Prez, but just be careful laying this number. You look at a number, the line's gone up from 5.5 to 6.5 from the look-ahead line because Seattle won again yesterday. They had a big lead. Atlanta got some garbage touchdowns to make it look closer than it was. But this is a team that if they made the move from 5.5 and they moved it to 6.5, why not just go to 7 in this game? They left it dangling there at the 6.5. They're going to get a lot of teaser money on Seattle just down to win the game. Just be careful. The Seattle defense is not what it used to be. And although they won yesterday and it was a 27-20 victory, Atlanta was -3 in turnovers once again, and they only won by 7, with Atlanta being -3.
But not only that, Marco, I mean, they went up 24-0. They went up 24-0, and they let Atlanta back into the game. And Matt Schaub put up over 400 yards. I think Jameis is going to go off. I like Tampa Bay. I'm telling you right now, my early look ahead on this game is I like Tampa Bay.
I can't disagree with you, sir.
Cleveland, Denver. This Denver defense is nasty. I watched that snooze fest yesterday. I had the under
The
in that
Denver
game.
offense is nastier.
Nastier.
In the wrong way, nasty.
Oh, Joe Flacco is so bad. I mean, you almost wonder.
Dude, yesterday. He had an 8-yard scramble for a first down yesterday. I had to stop and send out an "Oh my God" tweet when Joe Flacco made a first down. Again, they should have won the game yesterday, Denver. That was my top play yesterday. I got the win in the cover, but this is a game that right now for the Denver Broncos, you got to wonder what's left in the tank. They've had all of these gut-wrenching losses this year. You can't keep just losing. Like at 2-6, your season's over.
Yep.
For the Browns, at 2-5, their season's over with all the hoopla they had. But Prez, full disclosure, I should have been you yesterday. I should have been texting you all of my turnover woes. I had Cleveland. Do you know that this team, in their last 12 quarters of football, 3 games, 12 quarters of football, they're averaging almost a turnover a quarter. They have 11 turnovers in their last 12 quarters played. That has got to be a record.
Dude, the one yesterday where you're having a little bit of sound issues from Marco D'Angelo. Sorry, everybody. Marco, you're back?
I'm here. Where'd I go?
Yeah. You know, I've got to find a new program to run these videos through than Skype. It's so inconsistent. Yeah, look, the turnover when Baker, I think it was their second turnover when Baker literally shoveled the ball to Lawrence Guy. Just terrible. With that said,
but how about the 14-point swing where they're going in for a touchdown? I mean, the guy breaks away. He's going to be inside the 10-yard line. Oh, yeah.
And that was that was right after Nick Chubb fumbled on the possession before that.
They had 3 straight plays with 3 straight turnovers. It was unbelievable.
But
and I'm
Marco,
sitting there watching the game.
But Marco, understand this. They played well. Cleveland's defense played well. They got themselves back in the game. They showed moxie, and I think that's where we have to look for this game, Cleveland-Denver. I think Denver is going to give up. I think Denver is done. But I think Cleveland, given their 50 decades of garbage, I think we're still going to get a team playing tough and wanting to win. And I think Baker's a guy that doesn't like to lose. My early look ahead is I actually like Cleveland in the spot, and I like under the total. And I think the under is going to keep dropping. So if you want to bet the under in that game, you need to bet it right this minute.
And Prez, this is going to be another one to throw in there because it's a low total. Whoever ends up being the favorite in this game, which looks like it's going to be Denver. This game, the original line on this game was Denver 1. We've seen it go to 1.5. I expect it probably to continue that direction. With the low total, whoever you can tease and get over the touchdown is going to be the way to go because I don't see either team getting separation. One note, though, to point out with Flacco, we know he's been bad, but if there is a team that he's familiar with, remember, all those years at Baltimore, he plays Cleveland twice a year, every year. So he's going to be a little bit more comfortable in reading some of the defenses when he sees them. So you might see a little better performance from the Denver offense this week, and you got to question coming off the bye week. Cleveland, all they did 2 weeks was prepare for New England, and that's the reason why I took a flyer with Cleveland. 2 weeks to prepare, New England off the short week, everything else. Do they have the mental letdown in this game? Because really their season is unraveled in the last 3 weeks.
Marco, one of the most important things in betting is getting ahead of streaks. The New York Islanders have won 6 games in a row. I started betting them around game 3. St. Louis Blues last year went on a massive run. We had the Washington Nationals for the second half of the season. The key is to understand or to feel when a team is going to put a run down. Is this the time for the Chargers? We've seen it every year. They start out slow, then they come out and win 9 of their last 10 games. They're hosting Green Bay. I think we're going to hear on Bet On It how this is a sandwich game for Green Bay. They're trapped in the sandwich. The other team's going to eat the sandwich made with mayonnaise. Whatever the case may be, I got to think this is a bad spot for Green Bay. We've seen money come in on the Chargers. I think we're going to see more money coming in on the Chargers. I am likely going to get to the window on the Chargers here.
This is a spot. I hear you what you're saying with the Green Bay team. Aaron Rodgers, absolutely amazing again. You know, he's going to be facing a defense this week that is not great, but it is not as bad as Kansas City's defense. And he's also going to be facing a quarterback this week for that own Green Bay defense. Remember, Matt Moore looked good last night. Kansas City did not lose because of Matt Moore. Not at all. This is a spot where Phillip Rivers should make some hay in the fact that the Chargers were able to get a win in a game that they probably should not have won yesterday. Can put them on that roll, but here's the problem. And it's amazing. The first 2 weeks of the season, the Chargers ran for 125 yards and 137 yards. No Melvin Gordon. He was holding out. Then Gordon comes back. They have not rushed since the second game of the season for over 100 yards in any game. And they haven't even gotten close. In the last 4 games, they've rushed for 35, 32, 39, 36. Now, granted, in there, they have faced some good rush defenses. They faced Denver in there. They faced Pittsburgh, who still has a decent defense. And they faced the Bears. I think they're going to be able to go back to running the football this week. They need to go back to running the football.
Without question. Green Bay's run defense is their Achilles.
And it serves
Check out
2
the
points.
tricep there, Marco.
Oh, God. How about that? All right.
Let's go, baby. Oh, I love it. Marco gave us a pump.
Yeah, so the situation here is you need to run the football because you can against Green Bay, but more importantly, you need to run the football against Green Bay to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field for long stretches of time. I think you're going to see that type of game plan this week. If I liked Kansas City against Green Bay last week, I'm probably going to find myself on the Chargers here. And we saw the movement in this game. Initial line was 4, Green Bay. The first move was to 3. It opens up at 3. So even though both teams won, they're showing the love for the Chargers, and the Chargers win was 17-16. And it's because a guy missed the field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah, Marco, that's just, you're wrong. Okay, I mean, I get that the guy missed the field goal and Sandy and the Chargers should have lost the game. They left 17 points on the board, off the board. I already told you this.
They didn't even have 230 yards in the game.
Yeah, they dominated that football game. Anyway, we got to get this show wrapped up. New England -4 on the road against Baltimore, 44.5. We've seen this total come down 2 points already. This is really the first game New England is playing out of their conference. And the reason I say conference is because every other game they've played has either been against SEC teams or ACC teams or Big Ten teams. So now they're finally entering the NFL after, a 7-week preseason running around the world. I think they played the Saskatchewan Roughriders a couple of times, Montreal Alouettes. I think I think the UCF was one of their games. So now they're finally going to play a team that actually has players and a coach and cares. I think we're going to see money coming in on Baltimore all week.
Well, you saw it from the look-ahead line. This line opened up at 6.5, Prez, and we now have it at 4. Big move on this one, and it's because it's exactly what you said. This is a team that it'll be a pros versus Joes. It's a Sunday night game. The Joes are going to be on New England as they are every single week, and it's paid off for them. Doing that, they're 6-2 on the season against the spread. The only team that New England has played, to put this in retrospect of how easy their schedule has been, the only team that had a winning record that they have played so far was Buffalo, and that's the game that they only won by 6.
Yeah, and that was on a blocked punt.
Yeah, they should not have, Buffalo outplayed them in that game. Buffalo, unfortunately, was, 4 turnovers in that game, and that's what did them in. But the Buffalo defense held the great Brady in check. Now, I'm not saying that Baltimore's defense is as stout. I don't think the Baltimore defense is the defense of 4 or 5 years ago, but it is still a defense that is a lot better than anything they've seen recently. And they're going to be facing the best offense that they faced all year. Baltimore has put points up all season long. Lamar Jackson has taken that next step. Now, his last game, he had a regression before they went into the bye, but they didn't need him to do it because they did it with him on the ground and the rest of the running game. Against Seattle, they ran the football 35 times for 199 yards. He was only 9 of 20 in that game passing for 141 yards. They're going to want to go run heavy again, and that's going to be something to keep New England off the field and to test how good this New England defense is. We saw yesterday that Cleveland, in a rainstorm, was able to move the football against the Patriots if they could just hold on to the football. Baltimore's got a big shot here. This is one of those.
I know they win the game outright, Marco.
Primetime home dog. It's a Sunday night game. Our beloved hostess, Kelly Stewart, she loves to look at those primetime home dogs, and I think this is one she'll be looking at, and I can't say I don't disagree. I'm tired of stepping in front of the New England bandwagon and having it run me over. But this is a spot that screams Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Marco, we got to end this show. We got one more game to talk about, but really quick, everybody. I'm on a 17-5 all sports run. You can get $100 off of my package for a month. Use the promo code Prez225. Marco is absolutely dominant his last 7 weeks of all betting. You get $100 off of his package. Use the promo code MD225. And Andrew McGinnis is on a 17-1 all sports run. He has a 5-unit play up tonight in NBA over at Sports Memo. It's $9 Mondays at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. So you can have his play for $9. Marco, the show went on super long. Let's keep it under an hour, which means you have 30 seconds. Dallas versus the Giants. I like the Giants. I like the over. I think it's going to move in that direction as well.
It will. This will be a game that will only be bet one way. It's going to be Dallas getting money, and it's going to be the over getting money. Although the look-ahead line was Dallas 9. And this makes no sense that it moved and opened at 7 instead of the 9 that was the look-ahead line. What happened to change this? Dallas didn't play. They were on a bye week, and the last time we saw them, they absolutely knocked the snot out of Philadelphia 37-10. So what happened for their stock to go down? And the Giants, they lost again yesterday. They gave up 31 points to Detroit, and although they got the cover, it was a backdoor cover. They got that last meaningless touchdown with under a minute to go to make it a 5-point game. So I don't understand where the early line movement came in this game.
My answer, Marco, is I think we're seeing a star born, flat out. It's unbelievable how much slack the Giants got drafting
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones. I think we're literally seeing a monster in front of us. This guy is Eli. His poise, his lack of emotion, his leadership qualities. I'm going to end it there because leadership qualities seems to be a good place to end. You, my friend, and I are the leaders of this great show, this great company with Johnny and Rick. Guys, so many changes are coming in the next few months, so stay with us. Marco, thank you, my brother, for an outstanding show, and we'll see you Friday with Jeff from Ostheim Sports.
Sounds good, Prez.